Thank you, everybody. Welcome to today's final session in our Jumpstart Your Internship Program webinar Lunch and Learn series. We're really glad you're here. Thank you for bearing with us as we get things settled. This webinar series is part of GreenSeam's ongoing work to strengthen and elevate the food and agribusiness industry across southern Minnesota and northern Iowa. GreenSeam's mission is to elevate our region as a world-class food and agribusiness epicenter. Through partnerships like this one with colleges, universities, and employers, we aim to support workforce development, talent retention, and industry innovation. Today's session is hosted in collaboration with our Talent Development, Retention, and Attraction Committee, which brings together educators and employers to build strong, sustainable talent pipelines. I'm Bridget Johnson from South Central College, and I will be your moderator for today's session alongside Samantha Campa from Minnesota State University, Mankato. We'd like to welcome you to this session designed to support businesses like yours in building and strengthening internship programs that lead to long-term talent success. This session is titled Internship Launch Toolkit, about recruiting, onboarding, and developing a successful internship program. If you've joined us in previous sessions, welcome back. And if this is your first session with us, welcome as well. We're excited to be here and support you as you explore and build your internship program. A couple of quick housekeeping items before we get started. All attendees are muted upon entry, so we ask that you please use the chat box to share any questions throughout the session. I will keep an eye on that and help that through our Q&A sessions. The session is being recorded, and everything that we share today will be sent out afterwards. And before you log off, we will be asking you to complete a short feedback survey when the timing is right. I'll drop that link into the chat, and we'd love it if you could just take the time on the spot to finish it before you leave the session. In that survey, especially if you're working on developing your program now and you need further resources, we want to make sure that we are reaching out to you for that. So we do have a question on the survey that addresses that. We'll point it out later, but just make sure you know that that's there and that support beyond today will be there for you. So without any further hesitation, I am happy to kick us off and get us started by introducing Samantha Campa. She's our Internships and External Partnerships Coordinator at Minnesota State University, Mankato. She will lead today's session by sharing tools and strategies for recruiting, onboarding, and developing interns, from posting openings and collaborating with schools to setting students up for success. So Samantha, I will pass the baton over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Bridget. Thanks for the introduction and for just doing an excellent job facilitating this whole series. And I really want to thank GreenSeam for inviting me to present on this webinar series. It's really been great so far, and I'm excited to kind of bring it home today. So as Bridget mentioned, I'm the internship coordinator at MSU here in Mankato. I've been working with internships in this role for about 6 years, so I'm excited to kind of dive into the topic today. All right, so we are talking about kind of recruiting. So when we start off, when we're recruiting for an intern, really you should start with your job description. So consider, do you have a target major, a target year in school, or a graduation date range? Completed coursework, are there any specific courses that you want your interns to have taken already? Are you going to have a GPA requirement? Are there certain personality traits, interest, skills, prior work experience that you're looking for? So for example, maybe your profile that you're looking for is you're looking for a marketing, social media marketing intern. So you're looking for marketing or graphic design or communications major with 3 or fewer semesters left before graduation. And you want somebody who has some experience with social media to promote either a business or a club. And you want someone who's creative, they can work well in a team. You aren't really worried about GPA, but you do expect some skills with maybe Adobe or some other design software, right? That's the sort of kind of profile that you're going to put together. Now, you might not find that exact perfect candidate, but doing that on the front end can be helpful when you're starting kind of that recruiting process. I'd also like to make a note about GPA. So, according to the spring 25 2025 report from the National Association of Colleges and Employers, fewer than 40% of employers are screening college candidates by GPA. So it's not super common these days. I do still talk to some employers who think that GPA is a key factor in screening. So it's just worth a conversation, with your team. Should we be considering GPA, or maybe we don't care so much about that? It's more about skills or work experience or personality. Once you've kind of identified what you're looking for in a candidate, you should identify some target schools. So this is going to be, of course, a little bit different than recruiting for full-time jobs, because you're probably, I mean, maybe you are for entry level, but that partnership with the school is especially important for internships. So I would love to suggest that maybe you consider MSU and South Central College as target schools. But you can also, you may also want to consider your alma mater or your leadership team's alma maters, other schools that have good programs in the fields you're looking for, whatever it might be. Whether you choose us or other institutions, it's really going to make your job easier if you make a connection to those schools. So you can just do a search on the website, the college or university's website, for career center or career services, something like that. You should be able to find some information there about how to connect with them. You could also search for internship coordinator or employer relations. Some schools will have job titles or roles that do those specific things, and they can direct you in the best ways to connect with their students. Um, so typically there will be some free options and some options that cost money. That's going to vary by school, but the options they present, they'll likely include career fairs, some class visits, tabling on campus, and other things like that. I do want to highlight that MSU, we have a new program called Employer in Residence, where we essentially have a different featured employer every day during the semester. Great way to get in front of students, great way to recruit for roles, or to just build your brand on college campuses. So kind of stay tuned for that if you're interested in that. Just put it in that survey at the end and we can connect you. But I also am going to encourage you to post on colleges' student job boards. So MSU uses Handshake, and I believe SCC is using Simplicity. Is that right, Bridget? Yep. It's typically free to post on these platforms, and it's generally the first place that our students are looking for internships and entry-level roles. So in my opinion, it's kind of like a definitely do it if you want to recruit students from those schools. The great thing is, so SCC is not the only school that uses Simplicity, and if you post on there, it's fairly easy then once you have an account to post at multiple schools. The same is true with Handshake. So definitely add to that to your recruiting mix if you're not already doing it. I also just want to point out these are two of the most common, but you will just want to check with the schools that you're targeting to find out what platforms they're using. And then you'll want to think about, do you want other students to find your internship, even if they aren't at a target school? If you do, you can also post the position to your company's internal kind of hiring platform that you use for other jobs, and other job boards. So students, at least at MSU, the students in the College of Business tell me where they find their internships. And beyond Handshake, the top ones are LinkedIn and Indeed usually. You can post really anywhere. I do want to kind of let you know that employers I'm talking to, they're getting lots of applications. So if you are really wanting to target more to a school and get fewer applications, I would maybe caution you from posting at these other places. But that's really up to you and kind of your recruiting goals. So when I talk to students about searching for internships, I always tell them to use their network. And we do a lot of work talking about like, well, who's in your network, right? the same is true for you when you're searching for interns. You should be using your network. So ask current employees, ask past interns to help promote the internship to their networks. Consider asking for referrals. So it might be an employee's child or niece or nephew or a neighbor. Um, Allow them to kind of help you with that. And then share on LinkedIn that you're hiring, and then ask your colleagues to reshare. We coach our students on how to use LinkedIn for networking, and one of the things we tell them to do is to follow the companies they're interested in. And so if you post something there, they're going to see that, and those are going to be motivated students. All right, so um, in regard to reviewing and interviewing and selecting candidates, my general suggestion here is just to keep it professional. So yes, they are a student, but they're learning how the whole hiring process works. So even the interview is a learning opportunity for them. So I would say try to just use similar processes to what you do for entry-level roles at your company. But keep in mind that internships are learning experiences. So almost all of the candidates that you are interviewing, that you're connecting with, they're probably going to lack some skills or experience that you maybe are kind of wanting. You may want to look more for aptitude and potential. And then I also just want to point out, you probably know this better than I because many of you are working in HR, but your hiring processes are a recruiting tool. So if they're great, your candidates are going to be excited to work for you. If they're cumbersome and frustrating, they won't be. And the number one frustration that I hear from students about their internship search process is that they're not hearing back from employers about their applications. So they tell me they're being ghosted, and it's not this cute little Halloween ghost here. Um, they get pretty um, frustrated and disappointed when that happens. So just be sure to communicate timelines up front to students and provide status updates as much as you can just to keep them engaged while they're in that applicant pipeline. Um, I guess that's all I'll say about that. As far as interviews go, you are really the experts on this, so I'm not going to put too much into it, but I do just want to share a few things that I hear from employers. This summer, I met with a panel of employers, and they told me that in-person interviews are ideal, that they've kind of shifted back to in-person interviews after several years here of doing more virtual. Some of them said that it's because students are using AI during the interview, which I can't quite wrap my head around. I don't think I could be having a chatbot up and typing and reading answers during an interview, but apparently it's happening and it's pretty obvious to the interviewers. So that's one reason why they're choosing to do in person. The other thing is, even if it's not the case, they just feel like they're getting a better sense of the students' interpersonal skills, which are just becoming more and more important, right? When they meet with them in person. So I want to share too that many colleges and universities have an on-campus interview room that you can reserve. So you can book the room. Some places that may be free. And then you can come on campus and you could maybe interview 3 students that day. You would set up the interview schedule with them. And that gives you that chance to do that in person. Other employers tell me, hey, we really like to have them actually come and see our space. So kind of up to you there. Multiple interview stages are totally acceptable. I often hear of folks doing like a phone screening and then an in-person interview, but I probably wouldn't do more than 2 for just an internship. All right, and then once you found the candidate you want to hire, um, well, would like you to see you do an official offer letter. So students will often need an offer letter for their college or university. So if our students are earning academic credit, we require that from them. So this is kind of ideal to just make that a part of your process, whether or not the student needs to submit it to their school. They have that official offer letter. You can probably use the same template you use for other positions, but kind of the one change would be to include an end date, since usually internships have a start and an end date. We do have this sample one that we provide. to um, employers if they maybe didn't have offer letter template that they could use. Pretty simple, but really what we're looking for is kind of start, end date, how many hours per week, and then it's just on official letterhead, so we know it's a real job offer. A note about start and end date. Um, that can totally be negotiated between you and the student. It's ideal to work around terms, but it's not really necessary as long as the schedule you propose works for that individual student. Um, you should also ask the student if there's any additional documentation they need for internship credit with their university or college, um, and just kind of hopefully help them with that. Okay. Woohoo! We've hired an intern. So now we want to be sure to give them a strong start with your organization. So we're going to chat, we're going to transition and talk about, once they've started. So onboarding, just like an employee, onboarding is really important for an intern. You want to explain and expose your intern to company culture. You want to introduce them to colleagues. So make a list ahead of time of who they should meet. We talked about this a little bit on the last webinar, but encourage leaders and executives to interact directly with the intern. So maybe they're going to host a welcome lunch, or maybe they're just going to swing by the first week to chat, to say hello, to introduce themselves. Students often report that's a highlight for them to get that chance to talk to a leader. And then show them spaces. So not just spaces that they're necessarily going to use, but let them see your company and what it's about. So an example I have, of course, here in Mankato, in North Mankato, we have Taylor Corporation. They hire a lot of students in like their corporate roles. So I know the sales interns every year, they do at least one day, and I think it's more than that, day in the production facility. And they feel like that's important because it helps them understand like what is Taylor if they actually get out there and see it and get the chance to work on the floor in those roles. So keep that in mind. Like maybe you're a production facility, you're trying to hire an HR intern, but like get them out into the barns, right? Like let's see what your company really does. That will help them kind of understand and make sense of their role within your company. And the key here again is just really make them feel welcome. That is one of the things that is most important with your interns. You'll also want to make sure that they have all the tools they'll need to do the job from day one. So I've had interns tell me, like, I started my internship and I couldn't get into my email or like even a computer for a whole week. And that just makes them feel frustrated and bored. It makes them think that you're disorganized or you maybe don't really want them there, right? Like that's frustrating. So, just being a little bit more proactive and having some of these things ready to go from the first day. I listed some tools and things that you might want to have here, but definitely depends on the role and your company and what you have access to, but definitely make your own list and be prepared. Another thing you may want to have ready for your interns is some company branded swag. So students love getting this stuff. It makes them feel like appreciated and valued. They compare what they got when they get back to campus. But it also becomes a really good marketing tool. So when they get back to campus, in the fall after doing a summer internship and they're drinking from your branded water bottle and they're wearing your company quarter zip, like that's them advertising on campus. That will help you recruit more students and it may help you with other, sales within your company too. So it's a win-win. In addition to these onboarding items, you're going to want to train your intern. So simple list here, I guess, but just to get you thinking about it, you want to train on both duties and technology. So again, start with the job description. What are they going to be doing? What do they need to know? I think there's a tendency to skimp on training for interns because you're like, I'm only going to have them here for 8 weeks or 10 weeks or whatever it might be. Um, but I do encourage you to really think about the training as an important piece here. If you are giving a full-time employee certain training, like can they do that too? Is there a way you could shorten that to make it appropriate? Um, because again, they're there to learn. That's a big motivation for the student to do an internship in the first place. Also just add, confidentiality, data privacy, customer service, sales, um, your communication platforms, so Teams, Slack, Outlook, whatever it might be, they may or may not have had exposure to those things before. And then any field-specific software as well. So a best practice is to create a plan for the whole internship. So even if that's 12 weeks long or whatever length you've chosen, have a week by week plan. So we have a sample document like this. I'm pretty sure it's probably pretty impossible for you to read, so I'm sorry about that. But the idea is to just prepare that week by week plan with different tasks and training slotted in. This structure is going to help you kind of know um, what you're doing with the intern on any given week, and it helps the intern to be able to be a little bit more independent and kind of follow their plan. We call this their onboarding plan, even though it lasts the entire time. Um, I some of the a component of that plan, I guess, will be ongoing training. So some employers will do a monthly, some will even do weekly training sessions for interns. It might be a topic like resumes. How do you add this internship to your resume? Um, Networking, careers in your company. So like what opportunities are there at your company? You may also consider cross-training so they can learn more about different roles. Um, and then you can always make the training a little bit more fun by making it a lunch and learn, providing some food, inviting other interns and colleagues so they can kind of chat with other people while they're doing it, and just make it kind of one of those fun things that they get to do as well. All right, and then you want to make sure to end the internship well as well. So we talked about final presentations in the last webinar. Maybe you want to have a cake or some other kind of celebration at the end. Exit interviews are a great practice as well. And then it's important to extend offers or let them know what their next steps are, and then stay connected when they return to school. So if you did offer them a return job offer, make sure you stay in touch. It's a really long time between fall when they go back to school and then spring when they graduate and are ready to start work. So don't assume that extending a job offer is kind of, oh, that's good. Now we just wait for them to be done. You got to stay in touch with them. And then in some companies I will see will and offer a part-time. Sometimes that might be in person, sometimes it might be remote work for the student throughout the school year. So some will have them keep working their same internship duties. Others will pay them for like occasional work promoting the company on campus. So maybe your company is going to be there for a career fair, so you hire one of your former interns to come table with you just for a couple hours at that career fair because they're going to be great at pulling in other students to talk up to about your company. So just another option for you there too. Again, Nay says that this part is really key to actually converting those interns into full-time employees. So with that, I would like to actually hand it back to Bridget to introduce our case study for the day.
Thank you, Samantha. That was awesome. And, as you were going through all of your talking points for best practices, again, if you relate it to you being new at a company at any given point in time in your professional career, whether it was as an intern or even as a new employee, a lot of the things that you would want and expect to feel included and, as a part of that organization are some of the same things that interns are looking for as well. And so I thought that Samantha did a wonderful job at really driving those key points home. And so moving forward, we are very, very happy to introduce to you Randy Hagen. He is with Bayer Crop Science, where he oversees agronomic technical training programs. And I will let Randy introduce himself, but he will be walking us through how Bayer transitions students, interns into impactful contributors, starting with onboarding and moving through some of the experiences that he has had with his program. So Randy, we really truly do appreciate you being here today. Thank you so much. And I'll turn it over
Thank,
to you.
thank you, Bridget. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, let me see if I can get this in. Is that in presentation mode?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, great. Hello, everybody. My name is Randy Hagen, and typically I do not turn my camera on, but well, let me do something very rare here. I will turn it on. You will actually get to see me. Um, so I live in Hutchinson, Minnesota, but I lead technical training for bear crop science for all of North America, Australia, and New Zealand. And bear crop science, if you're unfamiliar with it, has actually three different divisions. I work on the crop science side of it, so it's the agricultural side. We also have a pharmaceutical side, and we also have a consumer health business. All of our programs have trainee and intern programs tied to them. I'm only going to talk about the ag side of it right now and what we do and give you some ideas about how that works. Um, we have a emerging talent lead. His name is Tyler Ortman. Tyler basically leads the challenge for us, the going out, the opportunity for us to get new people and to work with new people and all that type of stuff. He does a lot of career fairs. Most of the time, before we select candidates to even jump into our intern program or our other program, which is a field sales rep trainee program, both of these are picked through career fairs or referrals, and we typically do that sometime between August and end of October, maybe early November. And then we choose those people in their last year of school. And then the following year, in the summer or in May actually, we try to have a session with these folks. We bring them in and we then set up programs with them. So for the interns, it's a 12-week summer internship. We give them a project that's tied to the business. We give them a lot of training. I know Samantha talked about training, and so we'll hit a little bit more on that as we go into this. Um, but we focus on making sure that they have a good understanding not only of the project we assign to them, but the entire business, as well as our processes, our mentors. We give them each a mentor. We actually give them vehicles, and we give them a whole program where they are out in the public and talking to customers and farmers and this type of thing. And they are learning, and they're basically seeing if they're interested in coming to work for Bear, and basically looking at the program and saying, okay, I really like this part of it, or I like this part. Typically, we focus on the sales side of things. So they get a lot of that type of training, but they also interact with agronomists and some of our research people and some of our marketing people, and then certainly our entire training group as well. Our second program is selecting people for what we call a field sales rep trainee program. That group basically is selected from the interns. And so once we pick candidates out at the end of their 12-week time frame, we then say, okay, these people we would like to bring forward to our next program, which is really that field sales rep program. And then we offer them roles, and then they can come on and they go through another training program and really are tied to mentors, are tied to geographies. We put them in different places around the United States, and they basically then have that ability to come to work for us full time eventually. But it is kind of a two-step program, the internship first, and then going into the trainee program. So I'll give you a little bit more information here on each of these, just so you have somewhat of an idea. So the sales trainee program really is 8 to 12 month experience. There's an orientation that kicks off in May. It's a full week. We bring people in. We give them a huge background on the company, the processes, different things that we do. I do agronomic training for all of these folks, both then and throughout their period of time. The same with the interns. We do training for them throughout the whole summer month or the period of time they're with us. And then we put them in the field with a mentor. And then that mentor works with them and tries to get them introduced to the programs of selling, gets them introduced to the other folks that are in the field. And so they have the ability then to say, boy, I'd really like to do agronomy instead of sales, or I'd really like to go do more research. And so they have that capability of looking at a lot of those things. And then over time, we then make that decision. Do they stay and do we hire them full time, or do we say no at this point in time? So it is really a process that we've developed. In here, you'll see they'll also have projects. So we may have a new launch product, we may have a new agronomic topic, we may have a new sales program. We give them those projects to work on. They then need to do research. They then need to bring back to us a presentation, and we analyze it to say, okay, yep, that's very good, or, maybe you missed this or that. We also do a lot of quarterly check-ins with them. So it's not just put them out somewhere and let them run. It's really about staying in contact, really trying to help them along through the whole development process. So a lot of it is based on the mindset of how things work out there. As I mentioned, they'll have a mentor. It's really talking with customers. A lot of times we have them survey people in the field and work with these customers to find out that information, either for their project or just for general information. And then also, um, as I mentioned, we do continued training throughout the whole period that they're there. The intern program's a little bit on the same schedule. It basically has that orientation period as well. We bring them in again, give them a whole background of the company, a whole background on what they're going to be doing, and also assigning them a project. At the end of their 12-week period, which is typically the first part of August, they then bring their project results to us and do a presentation, and then we determine at that point in time if they move on to the next program. Again, continued training as we go through it. A lot of this is all pulled together, as I mentioned, with career fairs and that, but also referrals. So if you have people that you need, or if you have people that you're looking for and that type of thing, that's how we stay connected. A lot of our internal employees in that may have recommendations. We work with a lot of the colleges around the country in that to make sure we can find people in that. But it is overall kind of a process that we go through, and we basically, as I say, have a very structured process. So similar to what Samantha was talking about, there's a lot of do's, don'ts, and what ifs, and hopefully things that you can do to help the process along. So, Bridget, that was kind of fast, but I know I only had a few minutes. So, hopefully, that gave everybody a idea what Bear does in crop science. Um, we're here to help. We're here to answer questions. We're here to do whatever.
Thank you so much, Randy. Yeah, and if you wouldn't mind hanging out for just a couple more minutes, I know we have some questions for you. And then again, reminding anyone, whether it would be from Samantha's presentation or from Randy's presentation, if you have any questions, just drop them in the chat and I'll help facilitate those and work those to the into the conversation. So Samantha, I am going to turn that over to you to just begin
Hmm.
facilitating that Q&A, and then we'll go from there.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Randy. That was awesome. I was taking screenshots because it's good stuff there. So I do have some questions for you, and we'll kind of shift over to audience questions if those come in. But my first question is really just kind of foundational. I think I maybe know this based on your presentation, but what would you say is the purpose of the internship program for Bear? Why does Bear do this internship and then this sales trainee program?
It really becomes understanding their skill level and also seeing if they have that capability and desire. There's lots of people who apply for roles and jobs and that because they need a job. We want to go one step farther and really make sure they have a passion for it, but also have that understanding of really what is happening during that new role if they're to get that role. A lot of people get a role and then a few months later they go, boy, I hated this. I didn't want to do this. So we try to give them that experience and hopefully they either engage in it or they decide, no, I want to try something different. And we've had people do that. We've had people say, I would really rather do this. Do you have any openings in this area of the business? And a lot of times we do. And then we move them over there.
Sure.
And we kind of do the
Yeah.
same process again, though. We walk through, an internship, let's call it, with a different area of the business.
Okay, yeah, interesting. So it's kind of like from your side, it's sort of like a prolonged, extended interview period, right? Where you're kind of getting to see
Yeah.
who this candidate is. And on the flip, for the candidate, it's their extended interview where they get to learn about you and if this is really the right fit for them.
We hope it's a win-win for both. And that's what we try to make it into and that. And so yeah, I think it helps both parties.
Do you have, are there goals or what are you kind of seeing for how many of those interns convert to the trainee program and how many of those trainees convert to full-time offers?
It varies. Depending on talent, depending on need. If we're needing you know 10 people in the field for a role and that type of thing, and we have 20 candidates, we may pick 10. If there's only five that are really qualified in our minds, we'll only pick five. So it really is based on the need and what we have available.
Okay, great. Awesome. So, I not seeing any other questions. I'll ask another one I had. So, I see that you've got kind of this week of training where you're pulling everybody together at the beginning and then kind of at a midpoint as well. And then at the end for the internship class. I'm guessing those are full 8-hour days of training. Are you doing anything outside of those 8 hours to keep the students kind of engaged or the interns engaged, networking, socialization kind of things?
Yeah, we make them suffer for at least 8 hours a day, if not longer. Um, so, it's an experience. That first week, which was really orientation. After that, we typically at least once a month, if not, well, probably once a month, have another session with them, if not more, but they're typically virtual, where we'll go ahead and then we'll do some agronomic training, some program training, and that. Their real training ends up being with the field teams that they're out working with, as well as their mentor in that. But yes, we continue with a path all the way to the end where they then present back the information to us. We also give them a list of resources. We also give them a list of contacts so they can reach back out and say, hey, I need information in this area. And then we basically let them know who those folks are.
Okay, awesome. So being that your folks are dispersed kind of out in the field, I think that's kind of interesting and maybe something that will resonate with some of the folks on the call here. I work with business students, so a lot of times it's like they're in an office, right? Like the company culture is right there in front of them every day. They're they can sense if they're being included because it's right there in front of them every day. So with that dispersed workforce, how do you really ensure and what is successful in terms of making sure that they feel like they're part of the team and that they're kind of embracing that culture of the company?
So in the field, we also have we call them squads or units, and these groups get together periodically. They're brought into those squads and units, and they are just like they've been there the whole time. And so they get to know everybody in those areas as well as um, it's introduced whatever their project is. So sometimes it's an agronomic project, sometimes it's a program project for and etc. They then work with that group and help explain what they're finding or what questions they have, and that's they really engage fairly well through the summer in that, and they're really part of that team. So we try to keep them involved that way. And then they
Cool.
also ride with people as well. So they may, if we have an agronomist out there, they might say, okay, for the next 2 days, we want you to ride with them, if etc.
It sounds like that's a lot of coordination. What is your like it, and I think it might be helpful for these folks to know who might be from smaller businesses. What does your early talent team look like or emerging talent, I think I saw it was called.
Pretty small. We've only got a couple of people that really go out to a lot of these colleges and a lot of that to find these folks and that. I mean, they're spending uh, all those months, I'll call it August through October, out doing these types of things and getting resumes and getting names and getting information and all of that. And so that part is, we've got it fairly organized from that side. Once those people are selected and that, then we kick in with our whole program as far as the orientation and everything. And from that standpoint, um, again, it's been kind of the same routine. We might tweak it just a little bit here or there in that, but for the most part, it's the same process every year. So we've got it down pretty cool, pretty good.
Great. Well, I do see a question. Go ahead, Bridget.
Oh, yeah. And I love to be able to say that Bridget has a question that came up in the chat. I don't often see many Bridgets, so hi. Um, Bridget is asking, we're looking at doing this within our public works department, but they're getting kickback with safety and liability reasons. Is there any advice you can give that they can, take regarding that issue?
You want to take that one, Sam, or do you want me to?
I would love to hear your perspective. That's a great question, and I do hear that sometimes too.
I was hoping you would. So let's let Bridget answer it, shall we? So it's, I mean, it's really walking through a lot of the do's and don'ts, and really having some of that stuff is um, can't be shared, some of that stuff until they're true employees, but it is really signing. You talked earlier about signing different things to make sure that they are in line and that legally in that. We only go so far, and that when we basically do things, we're not going to give them information or access to things that if they don't get hired someday, that they would have in their hands. A lot of it is probably more general, and that from that standpoint, but again, they do sign a contract or and that to come into play. Um, just an example, we had a situation at one point in time where we hired somebody and they went out and did some things totally wrong on their in their personal life, and that we let them go, even in an internship. So there are some things that have to play into those rules just to make sure that, we want people that are going to have the passion, but also have the work ethic and the responsibility and accountability for if they get this job to say, we're gonna do everything right. So I guess that'd be my answer.
Yeah, and I would just add, so my perspective is a little bit different because it's, more from like a liability with data and that kind of thing. But I work with a lot of financial planning firms, and I get this question from them a lot, or a lot of them are kind of not willing to go down the route of an internship because they're worried about liability. Um, and I've seen kind of two approaches. Well, one, they just don't do an internship at all. Another one is, it's that they do like only expose them to the things that um, that are a little bit safer for them, right? So that they're not getting all of the information. They're not
Yeah.
making decisions that they would need really more, you would want to have a full-time employee doing, someone with more experience. The third piece is I've seen some where they have them do a training, and maybe this is applicable for you, Bridget, where there's some kind of safety training or certification that your folks need to have. I've seen, again, financial planning firms say you have to get this certification before your internship starts. We've hired you, but you have to have this certification before you start on day one. And they maybe will even pay for them to do that, but it's kind of outside of the internship time frame so that, when they get there, they've had that safety training. They're really, equipped, I guess, to work with what they might face in an internship.
Yeah, I can chime in on that a little. Some common ones might be like in OSHA 10, or if it's in healthcare, there might be some specific certifications that they might need just as basic CPR, first aid safety. So, yes, there are a lot of things. And as an employer, who wants to work and partner with interns, I think you'll find oftentimes educational institutions, especially if you're willing to help pay for those things, are more than willing to try to do whatever they can to accommodate. And I think another thing too, when you're talking about, interns versus employees and you're looking at building a program, I did work in healthcare myself for 10 years, and I worked with interns from the inside, as well as volunteers, and really making sure when you're setting up your program, knowing what the goals of that internship are supposed to accomplish, and then also what are the differences between your interns and between your employees. Because when you can describe that to your leadership, that's going to, very much help them, determine whether or not this is a good plan of action, or help you tweak the requirements that need to be in place, such as that special training, or what experiences they can be exposed to or not exposed to. So if you can really have that outlined very, very clearly to your leaders, that would probably also help you get some trajectory with that.
We spend a lot of time on safety. Matter of fact, it's just every single meeting we have, there's a topic on safety. So yeah, we make sure that um, they have that understood all the way through.
And I see a comment here from Jerry. Hi, Jerry. The interns need to complete the same company policies, HR, and EHS training that new employees complete. So yeah, that's definitely a way to go here too. Um, let's see. That's great, folks. If you have questions like that, look at this wealth of knowledge you have at your fingertips. So add your questions to the chat here. Um, I just want to, I have, I guess, one more question. Kind of rewinding a little bit, you mentioned your folks who are going out to the career fairs. Um, just curious, like how maybe, and maybe you're not a part of this, but how you've maybe identified partners, schools that you want to partner with, and then like how have you made those partnerships successful?
That's a good question. Um, we try to target agricultural schools for the crop side of the business. And so we're kind of going to those. Although each year we may introduce ourselves to a new one if there is a career fair there that we have the ability to come to because we have time and we have the ability to do that. Time is, of course, our biggest enemy. Most of it though is triggered around if there's an ag background, an ag business there, and then we also look at those referrals. So we have typically employees all across the United States in that, and if they are involved with one of the universities in that, in research data or in just different projects and stuff like that, sometimes we just lean towards that as well.
Awesome.
I don't know if we come there, do we? I can't remember.
We would love to have you.
Okay, all right.
We can talk offline about
We
that.
can talk about that. Sure.
Awesome. And that goes for anybody on the call. We would love to have you attend any of these things at MSU or at South Central that we have going on. So definitely, Bridget and I would be great contacts for you. Bridget, do you want to present the survey here?
Absolutely. So before leaving today and before us doing our final send off, if you can take a moment to fill out our survey, it's designed to be really short and sweet. But what our primary goal is to have you be filling it out. Hopefully you can all see it. I'm just going to take word that you can. Um, Okay, wonderful. So as you can see, the great thing about GreenSeam is their logo is really bright, so I can easily find the screen that I need to share with you right away. It's a very short survey, but what we do really want to point out for those of you who are building your programs and you want some follow-up, some extra guidance, one of the questions here just asks you, it's lucky number 7, would you like to receive additional resources and follow-up support? And then in your comments, just letting us know, what areas you might specifically be looking at. That way we can get you connected to the appropriate person and do that follow-up with you. So please take the time to, fill all of that out. Also, if any of you requested the SHRM credit during registration, you should be getting a follow-up email, so you can definitely look for that or reach out to GreenSeam if that's something that you need. So again, thank you so much for joining us today. We were really excited to be able to present this series. It's been a fun team to work with, and we've enjoyed working with all of you as you've joined us week to week. So thank you so much for attending, and we'll stay on for a few minutes if anybody has any further questions. Other than that, thank you so much, and everyone have a wonderful afternoon.